Welcome to the Ozark Hobby Adventurist Workbench. And today, we are going to be doing a body swap. I got two bodies. This is my beater body. This is my rock sexy body. Beater body. Rock sexy body. But first, a little episode I call Stories from the Tire. Okay, about 20 years ago, we were really into mud racing, and we'd build mud trucks out of just about anything. This is a 84 Suzuki Samurai with a small block Chevy, a 4-speed, half-ton Chevy truck axles, 38 1050 Super Swamper TSLs, that's the tri-stage lugs. The floor pan was made out of a roof of a station wagon. This is what Mighty Mouse looked like, up and running, ready to go to the mud pit. Pretty cool. Okay, here is a full-size Blazer frame with a small Blazer body setting on top. Small block Chevy. All the running gear is stock factory except for the motor. Centered the fender well with the rear axle, and then did a monster truck cut on the front fenders. Probably one of the more street legal rigs I've built. And then here's my favorite. This right here is Herbie the Mud Bug. And as you see, we got the it's a beast. Okay, now this picture here was taken at a car show, and you'll notice that the exhaust exited out the side. We weren't allowed to do that in case the valves came undone. It would blow the valves into the spectators, so we had to go with putting the pipes straight up out of the hood, which didn't bother me a bit. Sounded pretty gnarly. Here's how we got a lot of our trucks to go mud racing. This is the Mud Pig. This was 4 days before the mud run. And this is what it looked like when we went to the mud run. So we've had to make a lot of things fit. Been many years ago. Lots of fun. Still got a lot of friends at mud race. I still announce at mud races. But I get to build stuff kind of strange once in a while. Now here's one for y'all. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're going to tell me. But I'm going to give you two hints. It's a General Motors, and it's a first year of production. So in the comments, tell me what you think this car really is. All right, let's get to some building. First of all, we're going to look at things that you may need to look at in order to be able to mount your body. Things like where the servos and electronics are, where batteries are located. Like this servo mounts on top of the axle with the receiver, and then I have the speed controller all up front. Where this one here has the servo on top of the frame, along with the battery that I have to contend with in the building. And you can see the difference in height of these two. Okay, we have the Remo is on the left, Scrappy's on the right. And you can see there's big differences, like the battery locations, electronics locations. You may have to take the covers off your transmission in order to make room. But one of the biggest differences here is, let me turn these on their side, and you will see how the short wheelbase frame sets much lower in the middle, than the long wheelbase frame. And as you can see, the top of the transmission on the short wheelbase comes to the top leading edge of the frame rail, whereas the Remo, the top of the transmission is about half an inch higher than the frame rail. And it just makes things a lot easier. I had to do less carving on the bottom side of the body, but we make it work nonetheless. Okay, as you can see here, there's not really that much room between the spur gear and some of the floor pan, and I really didn't have to carve out that much, just one spot in the middle. As you can see, not all projects are going to be the same. I got really lucky, and my spur gear ended up being where my flywheel, torque converter, clutch would be. So I was able to hide a bunch of that underneath the removable center console. Okay, as you can see here, we've got a little hole that we've got to fill up in our console, and we've got a couple slots on each side that we're going to have to fill in. And as you can see here, here's our hole from the bottom side. Here is where the spur gear basically sets, and that's in the armrest of the console in the very back of it. And then we are going to put one piece, lay it in between here, and then we've got one piece to lay on this side and one piece to lay on that side. Okay, here we have our project all nice and clean. Got a little tape on the seats to keep glue and stuff from getting on them. We're just going to apply a little bit of this glue here. And then I'm going to take my little proby sticky thing and make sure that I got glue everywhere I need it. Thin out a couple spots. And here we go. Set that piece in there. We're going to get it lined up, and then we're going to let it dry. Alrighty, now we're going to get down to the fine tacks of the whole situation. Okay, as you can see, the transmission is setting backwards compared to the way it normally would be. You either have to change the transmission, flip it around, or you take and swap the front and rear axles along with the battery tray and the steering servo, which is what I did. And I also had to swap the front and rear body mounts. I had to extend the suspension out just a little bit. I used 4 bearing inner races for my spacers. And so that brought this thing to right at 325 millimeter wheelbase. And I just put these in here temporarily. I'm going to make all new links eventually. But basically that's it for frame modifications and adjustments. Okay, our first piece is dry. We're going to add our second piece. And we're only going to apply glue where the first and second piece actually meet. That way I don't have a bunch of glue sticking to stuff. And then we're going to turn around on the third piece, and we're going to add one little strip of glue to it and glue it to the first piece. Now here we are with those pieces dry, and as you can see, I got a little bit of trim work to do right in here and over here. So we're going to use our hobby knife and smooth that down. Now, be careful when using your hobby knife. Don't want you to hurt yourself. You're not trying to take out big chunks. You're just trying to smooth off an edge. And sometimes you got to get a little bit creative when using your knife, but remember to be safe. All right, just about got this cleared up here. Okay, and this is how it looks done most of the way. I got a little bit of sanding to do yet in a couple spots, but you can see how it's pretty well hidden. Got a couple little spots where I'm going to fill in with a little piece of scrap material. And this is how it's looking. Going to add a little paint, go out, test it, and see if we got any gear scrapings on the underside here. This is what it looks like after it's all painted. And we had to do a little bit of file work on the bottom. Had a couple spots that were kind of close. We got them squared away. Here is my 2 mounting holes that I use for my back body mount. I kind of had an issue when I went to drill these out. I was going to drill right here, but this is a thin spot in the plastic, and as soon as the drill bit caught, it cut out the little hole, little recessed thin spot right here, so I just used these for my body mounts. For the front, since this is temporary, I'm using a Velcro pad here and a Velcro pad here. So I had to make some standoffs on the front. Put some Velcro on them. We have a little bit of an issue with the battery. It sticks up higher than my mounts. Like I said, this is only temporary. I'll figure something out to make it a little bit more durable. I'd like to make it to where it hinges in the front somehow. Now the battery fits almost all the way up to the front and it touches the firewall, and so I had to remove the screw for the middle of the dashboard. The battery has to be all the way forward in the battery tray, just so you got a smidgen of room in between the battery and the inside of the grill. So, things to keep in mind. Okay, here we are. This is what it looks like when we're done. Now you could paint this a shiny black to match the interior. You could paint this silver. I got a little touch up to do right here. Just a couple drops of glue, and I'll fill in that little hole right there. But all in all, pretty happy with it. It's pretty simple, not really that complicated. And if you're looking for some materials, you can always go find your old car models and take you a hood or a door or something and use some of those little scrap pieces to fill in some of your stuff, so you don't have to actually go out and buy plastic to fill that in. So I hope this helps out you guys that are wanting to get into some modeling. Don't be afraid to make a mistake, because when you fix your mistake, you've learned something. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for watching the video. Sure hope you enjoyed yourself. Hopefully you learned something, and maybe I saved you a moment or two in the building process by preventing some heartache and discontent. So until next time.